Welcome back, everyone. We're diving deep into metabolic health today. Getting into things like how those tiny mitochondria in our cells and even our own genes play a part.
It sounds
It
fascinating.
really is. And what's got me even more interested is this idea of metabolic dysfunction being a blind pandemic, like a health crisis most people don't even know they're facing.
It's true, it's often overlooked.
Our sources say a staggering 1 in 3 adults in the UK are dealing with metabolic syndrome. So before we get any further, what exactly is metabolic dysfunction and why should we even care?
Well, you're right, it's a big deal. To put it simply, metabolism is just how our bodies turn food into that fuel, that energy for, well, everything we do.
Like the engine of a car.
Right. Exactly. It's the engine driving every single function in our bodies. And when you talk about metabolic dysfunction, that's when that engine starts sputtering, not running as smoothly as it should. And a lot of times, people don't even realize it's happening.
Because we feel fine, we think everything's okay.
Yeah, it's not always obvious right away, but ignoring it, well, that's when the risk of some pretty serious health problems goes up. Heart disease, stroke, type 2 diabetes.
I'll connect it to our metabolism.
Exactly. They're all linked to how well our metabolism's working.
So even if we're feeling great right now, understanding our metabolism is a bit like what? Getting ahead of those check engine lights before they even come on?
Precisely. It's all about preventative maintenance for our bodies. And those tiny powerhouses you mentioned earlier, those mitochondria, they're a major part of this whole system. Our sources actually point out that more than half of UK adults feel tired every day. And this could be because these little guys aren't working as well as they could be.
Okay, so we've got these tiny powerhouses in our cells that affect our energy. I get that. But how does that actually translate into feeling tired and what makes them start to slow down?
Well, picture your mitochondria like these little cargo ships, constantly delivering energy to your cells.
Okay, I like where this is going.
When they're running efficiently, we feel energized, everything works the way it should. But just like real cargo ships, they can get bogged down.
I can imagine.
Now, aging is a natural part of life. It slows them down a bit, just normal wear and tear. But metabolic dysfunction, that's the big one. It's like we're neglecting those ships, not doing regular maintenance, and eventually they just can't keep up with the energy demands. And that's when we start to feel that fatigue, along with potentially a whole bunch of other issues down the line.
That's a great way to visualize it. So it's not just about getting older, it's about how well we're taking care of these little energy transporters throughout our lives, which makes me wonder, what can we do to keep them running smoothly? Tell me there's good news.
There is. It's like investing in a top-notch crew for those mitochondrial ships of yours. Exercise is key. Think of it as sending them to the gym. Yeah, like a good workout can really make a difference. High-intensity interval training, or HIIT, has been shown to be especially good. It's like putting your mitochondria through boot camp. Makes them stronger, more efficient.
So ditching those leisurely walks for some sprints every now and then. Got it. What else helps those mitochondrial cargo ships of ours?
Well, think about it. What would make those ships work better? Less cargo, right? That's where fasting comes in.
Ah, okay.
It's not about, starving yourself or anything. It's more like giving your cells a break from constantly having to process food. Gives those mitochondria a chance to clear out any backlog and just get better at producing energy.
Interesting. So that whole intermittent fasting thing, maybe it's more than just a fad.
Right. The research on it is still emerging, but it could be a really powerful tool for boosting mitochondrial health. And of course, we can't forget about oxidative stress.
Right, those pesky free radicals.
Yeah, those little troublemakers can really do a number on our cells, including those mitochondria if we let them.
Okay, free radicals. Remind me again what those are exactly.
Imagine them like little rust monsters,
Yeah.
basically. If you leave them unchecked, they can wreak havoc inside our bodies. Think like rusting metal, but that's kind of what oxidative stress does,
Yeah.
causing damage over time.
Okay, now that's a visual I can get behind. So how do we fight back against these rust monsters?
Antioxidants. They're like the little superheroes that can neutralize those free radicals and protect our cells. And you're probably already familiar with a lot of them, like those colorful fruits and veggies, green tea. They're all packed with antioxidants.
So that's why I can't get enough blueberries lately. Always happy to add more color to my plate. Speaking of fascinating things, our sources also mention this link between our genes and metabolic health, specifically through something called methylation. I'll be honest, it sounds a little complicated. Can you break that down for me?
It is pretty complex, but in a way, it's actually quite elegant. Think of your genes as this massive library, right? Full of blueprints for your body. Everything from your hair color to how your metabolism functions, methylation is like the librarian controlling which blueprints get accessed and used at any given time.
Okay, so it's not just about the genes we're born with, but how they actually get expressed. Like, we've got
Yeah.
these librarians running around deciding which books come off the shelves.
Exactly. And what's really interesting is that these librarians, they're influenced by the choices we make, our lifestyles, the food we eat, how much we exercise, even our stress levels. They all play a role in how methylation works. It's like they're deciding which genes get turned on or turned off.
So even if we inherit a gene that, say, makes us prone to certain health problems, it's not necessarily a done deal. Our lifestyle choices can still have an effect on how that gene actually behaves.
That's the empowering thing. We actually have more control than we think. Take the APOE gene, for example. We mentioned earlier that it's linked to cholesterol and heart disease risk, and about 1 in 4 people in the UK carry a variant that increases their chances of developing those problems.
Yeah, that one definitely got my attention, especially with heart disease being such a big concern.
Absolutely. But here's where methylation comes in. Research suggests that lifestyle factors can actually impact how strongly this particular gene variant expresses itself. So even if you inherited living a heart-healthy lifestyle, a balanced diet, regular exercise, managing stress, all of that could potentially dial down its impact.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. It's like having a genetic predisposition doesn't have to be a life sentence. We can actually change how our genes behave.
In a way, yes. And this is why understanding your own unique genetic makeup can be so valuable.
Our source material talks about genetic testing, and I have to say, it sounds like it could be really useful for understanding our own personal blueprint, so to speak, and seeing how those librarians might be influencing things.
It definitely can be. Think of it like getting a sneak peek behind the curtain of your own unique blueprint, right? Genetic testing can reveal certain predispositions you might have, like that MTHFR gene variant we were talking about earlier. It's involved in how well our bodies process folate
And folate is important
for
for.
methylation. It's a crucial nutrient for that whole process and for our cells to function properly in general.
So if a test shows that I have that variant, does that mean my librarian might need a little extra help keeping things running smoothly?
You got it. It's like a heads up that you might need to pay a little extra attention in that area. Armed with that knowledge, you can start taking specific steps, like adding more folate-rich foods to your diet, or maybe even considering a targeted supplement, all to support good methylation and potentially offset those risks.
This is really starting to come together now. Okay, so we have our metabolism, the engine that drives everything. Then there are the mitochondria, like tiny cargo ships, busy transporting energy inside our cells. And it's all overseen by our unique genetic code, with methylation acting as the librarian, influenced by, well, us and the choices we make. Did I get that right?
That's a fantastic summary. You've got it. And when we understand how all of these elements work together, it gives us the power to make informed choices and really optimize our health. Even if we have certain genetic predispositions, it doesn't have to dictate everything. It's about moving away from that one-size-fits-all approach to health and recognizing that we each have a totally unique metabolic blueprint.
That's incredibly empowering, knowing we have that kind of control.
Mm.
But it also makes you realize just how important it is to be proactive, right? One thing that really stuck with me from our source material was that having those poor methylation patterns could actually shorten our lifespans by as much as a decade.
It is a pretty powerful reminder that taking care of our metabolic health is crucial. It's an investment in our long-term well-being. And it's not just about trying to live longer. It's about adding more life to those years. The earlier we start, the better.
It's like that saying, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, the second best time is now. We can't go back and change our genes, but we can change how they express themselves.
Exactly. And there's so much we can do to support our metabolic health through the choices we make, through our lifestyles. Knowledge really is power when it comes to this stuff.
So for our listeners who might be feeling a bit overwhelmed with all this information, what are the key takeaways you want them to remember?
Okay, well, first and foremost, remember that your metabolism is your body's engine, its energy system. Keeping it running smoothly is absolutely essential for your overall health, for preventing disease, all of that. Secondly, don't forget about those mitochondria. They're the key players in this whole system, and we can support them through simple things like exercise and diet. And finally, remember that you have a say in how your genes express themselves. You can't change your genes, but you can influence them through your lifestyle. It's empowering.
It really is.
Yeah.
And speaking of empowering knowledge, our sources mention something pretty striking. Every year, nearly 160,000 deaths in the UK are attributed to cardiovascular disease. It makes you wonder just how many of those could be prevented if we all took a more proactive, informed approach to our metabolic health. If we really understood this stuff.
It's a sobering thought, but it also highlights the incredible potential we have. By understanding our metabolic health, supporting our mitochondria, and working with our unique genetic predispositions, we can truly empower ourselves to live longer, healthier lives.
What if, instead of being afraid of those statistics, we use them as motivation to learn more? What if we're on the verge of a preventative health revolution where understanding our own bodies allows us to actually rewrite those statistics for good?
Now that's a future I'm excited to be a part of. And it all starts with each of us taking charge of our own health.
That is the perfect note to end on. So, to all our listeners out there, we challenge you to dive a little deeper into your own metabolic health. Explore your genetic blueprint. Learn about methylation and all of its intricacies. Discover the power you have to influence your own well being. Until next time, keep diving deep.